Chapter 9, 10 through 17.
Was that for somebody to read? Is that what you meant? You want somebody to read 10 through 17? Is that what you're waiting for? Okay.
Yep.
I will take away the chariots from Ephraim and the war horses from Jerusalem, and the battle bow will be broken. He will proclaim peace to the nation. He will rule with extent from sea to sea and from river to the ends of the earth. As for you, because of the blood of my covenant with you, I will free your prisoners from the waterless pit. Return to your fortress, you prisoners of hope. Even now I announce that I will restore twice as much to you. I will bend Judah as I bend my bow and fill it with Ephraim. I will rouse your sons, Zion, and against your sons, Greek, and make you like a warrior's sword. Then the Lord will appear over them. His arrow will flash like lightning. The sovereign Lord will sound a trumpet. He will march in the storms of the south, and the Lord Almighty will shield them. They will destroy and overcome with sling stones. They will drink and roar as with wine. They will be full like a bowl used for sprinkling the corners of the altar. The Lord their God will save his people on that day, as a shepherd saves his flock. They will sparkle in his land like jewels in a crown. How attractive and beautiful they will be. Grain will make the young men thrive, and new wine the young women.
Okay. If that is describing the second coming of Jesus Christ, and if you're a rapture person, I guess it's describing the third coming of Jesus Christ. I haven't figured out where rapture is in the Bible yet, so we're not going to talk about it. Now, the first, Zachariah did not seem to be in any way interested in the first coming of Jesus Christ, except for verse 9. And read verse 9.
9:9.
Yeah.
Rejoice greatly, daughter Zion. Shout, daughter Jerusalem. See your king come to you, righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey.
Okay. That's all he has to say about the first coming of Jesus Christ. He's gonna come humble, and he's gonna come riding on a donkey. He was interested, Zachariah, God was interested in sending us a message that there is going to be the second coming is going to be a great change in the world. And that was what was going to affect us. Zechariah did not focus on the first coming at all, except for verse 9. Now, got your papers there. Describe the first coming of Jesus Christ. What's the first thing he said?
Rejoice.
Rejoice and have great joy. Okay. How did Jerusalem receive Jesus Christ his first time?
Well, they rejoiced the day before and killed him the day after. So
They what?
they rejoiced during Palm Sunday. They rejoiced for him, and then they killed him.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But even though there was people who rejoiced, like the shepherds, like the angels, and the wise men, it was very minimal. Now, Daniel had told them exactly when Jesus Christ would come. He said and and we talked about earlier, we talked about the rebuilding of the temple a couple of years ago. From the day that the emperor of Babylon decided to let them rebuild the temple and issued a decree to let them do it, there would be 483 days to the coming of the Messiah. They knew the exact date of that proclamation. They knew exactly when Jesus Christ was going to come, to the day. And what was the vast majority of Jerusalem doing at the time? What had the Romans decided to do at that very moment?
Get them together and tax them.
And tax them. They were going to bring all the people in all the Roman Empire together to their hometown. They were going to do a census. And you were to bring your kids and everything, and then you were to pay a tax on every person in your family, and then go back home. Now, what was Bethlehem concerned about?
Money.
Everybody was busy packing the inns, selling the wine, and if you see my part out in the nativity, I'm out there trying to sell donuts and everything else. I'm the shopkeeper. I'm the market keeper. I own the market, and I'm trying to keep the kids from stealing the grapes, and I'm trying to make a buck. Okay. Who are the only people that really saw the angels or heard the proclamation amidst all the noise?
Shepherds.
The shepherds. Because they were out in the fields watching their flocks by night. And that's significant too. Because Christmas was actually in March. How do I know that?
I do.
Yeah.
If you want to know, I will
March
send you a
8th to be
link
specific.
to Jonathan Cahn. If you don't know who he is an author that you need to read his books. They're really good. We talked last week about him. All right. He did a YouTube thing on it and how Jesus was actually born in March and gave to detail that it just makes perfect sense.
During that period of time, they could not put the sheep in the fold because it was lambing time. And if they had stuck 100 sheep in this little bitty fold to protect them from the wolves and whatever, they would have trampled the lambs. They had to be loose and out, and the ewes had to be out there where they could be free to get off by themselves and to have the lamb. And so the shepherds are watching their flocks by night. They only did it during the lambing season. They never did it at any other time. Every other time, they put the sheep in the fold, and they left somebody to watch over them, and they went home for the night. Only during the lambing season would they have been out there. It was all about lambs. We'll probably get into it when Christmas comes, so I won't hit it too much. But they laid him in a manger. A manger was not a wooden structure. It was a stone structure. And they took those lambs. Now the lamb that was going to be sacrificed at the Passover, that lamb had to be spotless. It could not have any blemishes, it could not have any scars, it could not have any broken bones, it had to be spotless. Okay. They actually wrapped those lambs in swaddling cloths, to keep them from jumping around and scratching themselves and scraping their hide and breaking their bones and getting scars on their face and whatever. Because lambs are very active. You guys been around calves or lambs during,
They jump and run.
They're busy little fellows, and they have all kinds of accidents. Well, when they got these lambs, those lambs were going to be used at the Passover, and they had to keep them from being all that active. So they wrapped them in cloths, and they put them in these steel stone troughs, so they couldn't be bumped or they couldn't be damaged. That only happened in March and April. Jesus was born on, and they also know when Zachariah was serving in the temple, and they know that when he went home at the end of his service month, Elizabeth became pregnant, so they know when John the Baptist was born, Jesus was born 6 weeks later, and 6 weeks later from that date would be March. So Christmas is in March. And next year we're going to have a Christmas party
In March.
I sent you both a link on your YouTube, or on your, Messenger, so you guys can look at it.
Okay.
So everybody was supposed to be happy, looking for the Messiah, and knowing exactly when he was going to come. And what were they doing? They were out trying to make a buck. Whoever arranged the nativity thing really had a feel for what was going on. The only people that realized that Jesus had been born that night was Mary, Joseph, the shepherds, and the angels. Everybody else was just trying to get rich. Life as it was. Okay, what's the second thing it says was going to happen? How would we recognize it?
Donkey.
Huh?
He'd be riding on a donkey.
Yeah, that's the...
Third? Okay, did I skip one? All right.
He what?
Comes, shout. It says he will come righteous.
Righteous. He would be righteous. Now, do you think that the people that lived around Jesus knew that there was something special about him?
Yeah.
Right. If you were his age, growing up to the age of 12, and you had never sinned or did anything bad, and you were an adolescent, do you think people would say, that kid's different? Why didn't they say that kid's different? Because you were ornery and getting in trouble all the time. Just like all the rest of the kids. Right, Mom?
Oh, yeah.
Right, Mom?
No, not mine.
Oh. Well, this is the second Messiah.
Yeah.
Come on, Bill. I know you love you. I know all the babies get a pass, but the bottom line is they're just as ornery as everybody else. Are you the baby? Am I right?
You are absolutely right.
You bet your bones over it. But Jesus was a righteous kid. He didn't, I'm sure he played, and I'm sure he laughed, I'm sure he did a lot of things that most kids do. But the bottom line is, it says that he had no fault. There was no fault in this little boy. This little boy himself was the Son of God. And people had to know that there was something special about this child. Remember, Mary knew. Remember the passages when Mary was talking about him when he was little? Mary knew. There's a gospel of Mary. I don't suggest you read it, but it's interesting how the author of that gospel portrayed Mary. But Jesus was special. He'd be righteous. What's the third thing? Actually, there's four. Only asked you for three.
Victorious.
He would offer what?
He would offer
Huh?
Salvation.
Salvation. Righteousness and salvation go together. Are you righteous? How many of you are righteous? Hold up your hand.
through Christ.
Yeah, I've had this question.
Yeah, I was gonna say yeah.
You've asked this before, and I still.
Nobody wants to do it because we know the truth. But the truth of the matter is, if you've accepted Jesus Christ, are you righteous?
Yes.
How's that work?
It's not
Now, it's not bad that we don't want to hold up our hand. We ought to, our unrighteousness ought to humble us. But the bottom line is, we are righteous. Who's the hardest person for a Christian to forgive?
Themselves.
Me. Myself. I know what I've done. A lot of people know some of what I've done, but I know everything I've done. And I know that I am not righteous. But if I become a Christian and go out to change the world, how can I change the world if I'm dragging around a big bag of guilt on my back? I can't. I don't have any confidence. Paul said, we go before the throne boldly. Now, before Jesus came, how did we go before the throne? We didn't. Huh?
With your face in the mud.
No, we didn't go before the throne. We had a priest do it for us. And he had to go through this whole ritual, and he only did it once a year. And they put bells on the bottom of his robe. Why did they put bells on the bottom of his robe?
Well, he was behind the curtain, and if they didn't hear the bells, they had a rope to his foot, and they pulled the body out from under.
They put bells on the bottom of his robe, and they tied a rope on his right ankle. And then he had to take the sacrifice for himself and for Israel into the Holy of Holies and present it to God. And if he didn't do it just right, they didn't hear the bells anymore. And they drug his dead body out of the Holy of Holies. It was a very serious thing, sin was. And not all the priests survived it. The Holy of Holies doesn't exist anymore. We have direct access to Jesus Christ. Why? Because he was a righteous child and he gave that righteousness to me. The Bible says we are covered by Jesus Christ. You ever heard the word covered? We're covered. You ever heard somebody say, that's okay, you're covered? That means that person is going to help you do whatever it is, or is going to be there if you get yourself in trouble. I got you covered. That's where that phrase comes from. I'm going to watch over you. I'm going to walk through you with it. I'm going to be your person. And that's exactly what it means in the Bible. We are covered by Jesus Christ. Sometimes it says covered by his blood. Okay? So when God looks down at me on a bad day, what's he see?
His son.
He sees his son. I'm covered by Jesus' blood. I'm baptized into Jesus Christ. I'm covered with him like when he looks down at me, he sees Jesus. So we can go before the throne boldly. We can make a mistake because we have the righteousness of Jesus Christ imparted to us, and we are covered if we have a bad day. So how many of you are righteous? I like bodies. I want to be that person. The rest of it is kind of like, there's nothing wrong with that. We ought to remember who we were, and we ought to be humbled by the provision that Jesus made for us and the protection that we have to walk boldly with him. And quite frankly, we're not going to change the world if we don't have that. Okay, fourth thing, Don. We were getting to it.
He'll be riding on a
He's riding on a
donkey.
donkey. What's that mean? He's riding on a donkey. If he rode from Bethlehem to Jerusalem on a donkey, what was he trying to say?
He wasn't coming to war. He was coming peacefully.
He was coming to peace. Okay. Now, if you go back into the history of Israel, when the armies formed up around Jerusalem, and they were going to besiege the city or attack the city. The Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Palestinians. They surrounded the city and they blew the trumpets and they said, "We're coming for you." If the king of Israel rode out on a black horse, what did that say to the armies? We're
War.
gonna
Fight.
fight. If he rode out on a donkey, what did it say to the armies?
Peace.
We surrender. We'll pay the toll, we'll pay the taxes, just don't tear up our city and don't kill our people. And they rode out humbly on a donkey. Jesus came to Jerusalem not only to save Israel from the Romans, not to save Israel from the Romans, but to save Jerusalem from the devil. He came in peace. He came not to fight with the chief priest. He came not to fight with the Sadducees or the Pharisees or the Zealots. He came in peace to offer salvation to Jerusalem and then to the whole world. They knew what it meant when he rode in on a donkey. They knew what the message was. They knew what the customs of the time was. And they missed it. Okay, Zachariah gave it one verse and I gave it most of the Sunday school book. Because I think it's important. Okay, number 3. The second coming of the Messiah, Christ, what was the question? The second coming of the Messiah, Christ will come as an exalted king and conqueror and deliver the people. And you can read about that in Romans 19. How will Christ establish peace on the earth in God's kingdom? That would be A. There's 2 things, 10A and 10B.
He'll stop wars. He'll take away,
He'll stop war.
yeah, take away the war horses.
Right. He'll put an end to war. How will he do that? What's the source of war?
Satan.
Sin, and sin comes from Satan. Right. All war is caused by sin. Hatred, greed. Why did Germany want to take over Europe? Greed.
Hatred.
Hmm?
Hatred. Hatred.
Hatred. Hatred of the Jews and greed. They wanted to rule Europe. And then they wanted to rule England. And then they took on Russia. I guess they wanted to rule the world. But it was all about sin. It was all about greed. It was all about power. And all those things are very sinful. There's no humility in any of that. Why will there be no war for the 1,000 years? Because the source of the sin is gone. He's been locked up in the pit at the end of the 7 years of tribulation, and he will not be allowed out for 1,000 years. And for 1,000 years, with Satan locked up and gone, there will be no war, no death, no funerals, no cemeteries, no hunger, no sickness, no pain. The world will be like it should have been in the beginning. It'll be like the new Garden of Eden. Then at the end of that 1,000 years, God lets him out for a short season, and what happens? A short season season's 3 months. A short season would be less than that. He lets Satan and his 2 minions out to go out and have their way with the world. And what happens at the end of that season?
Millions following.
War. instantly. Almost instantly, the world turns around. How could you live in Jerusalem in a mansion, never be sick for 1,000 years, never have to worry about your kids dying, never have to worry about hunger or thirst? Go read that. The river flows from the throne of God. It will heal anybody that drinks from it. The trees give fruit every 30 days. Remember in Revelation we looked at all that? It was a perfect time. Nobody's going to gossip about you. Everybody's going to behave because the source of sin is locked up in a pit, and the world is the Garden of Eden again. Let him out for 2 months, and what happens? We go chasing off after the wrong guy. After 1,000 years of having a perfect life. I'll have to see that to believe it. That is so stupid. I can't believe that the armies will be greater than the sand on the seashores. I'm going to have to see that one because I can't believe, but it's going to happen because it's
I've been thinking about Adam and Eve. You know, you see how she was easily tempted and what happened. But they didn't know that. They didn't know what that is. And 1,000 years, there's going to be people who don't know what that is, and they're going to be easily tempted to go to the wrong side.
You know, that's a good point. That's a good point. And I hadn't thought about it that way, but thank you. I learned something this morning. No, I'm serious. I'm serious. That's a very good point. They haven't had to experience evil, so they don't really know what it is if they're born during that 1,000 years. But we're supposed to be teaching them during that 1,000 years too, and I would think we'd be teaching them what's about to come. So it's kind of a balancing act there, but that's a good point.
We'll say back in our day.
What?
We'll say back in our day, there was some bad stuff.
Back in the 900s.
Yeah.
Yeah. I say back to the 80s, so it'll be back in the 900s, back in the 700s. But, okay, and we'll do the second one, then we'll pick this up again next week. 10F, he will stop all war. What's the second thing he'll do?
He will rule.
He's going to rule. Not Obama, not Trump, not Kamala. He will rule. So righteousness will be the controlling factor. Not my greed, not my lust for power, not my jealousy. Those things will not be, I'll not have to deal with for that 1,000 years because the source of them will be locked up. So the war will stop and he will personally rule over the world. So the control will be righteousness and not defective sinful natures. And we will pick up at B next week and finish that. And so you've got 2 weeks to do the next sheet. So don't be coming and telling me I didn't do my homework.